we're going to start interactive. We're going to start with we're going to recreate a famous experiment. Okay, you guys up for that? Okay. If you have a pen, use a pen. If not, you can use your phone. Everybody needs to write down, if you have a social security number, write down the last 2 digits of your social security number. Okay? Don't write down the whole social security number. Don't give it to your neighbor. Just write down your last 2 digits. How we doing? Anybody need more time? Okay. Now, you've done that. Second half of the experiment. This is a bottle of wine. I need you to guess, write down your guess for how much this bottle of wine costs. This is all you get. I do know how much it's worth. It's a Cabernet, Surpasso. Everybody's crossing it out. Yeah? Does everybody have their guess? Who wants, we're going to do it quick. If I had a whiteboard, I'd write down everybody's answers here. But does somebody named Jamie Crane want to help me with this? Do you have a pen and paper? All right, excellent. We're going to do this quick. This is the famous experiment. So now, raise your hand if your social security number was less than 20. The 2 digits are, let's say, less than 20. Raise your hand. All right, very quickly, I want you to tell me what you guessed for the bottle of wine, and Jamie's going to write them down, okay? $32.99. $32.99. Lisa. $100. $37. Back to. $20. Over here. Oh, $1, Chuck. Doesn't even exist anymore. Derek. $20. All right. Did you get most of them? Raise your hand if your social security number 80 or above, the last 2 digits. All right, same drill. We'll start over here. What did you guess for the bottle of wine? Over here. 25. We'll pause there. Do you guys want to guess what the experiment found while Jamie figures out if ours matched it or not? What do you think they found, these famous researchers in 1970? Correct. On average, when they ran this experiment with a large enough group over and over, they always found the same thing. People whose social security number, and it doesn't have to be that, I can give you some other variations they did, that wrote down a number 20 or less, ended up guessing on average about $30. People that wrote down 80 or higher on average guessed about $85. Jamie, does it look like we did it fail? We failed. This is probably the 5th time that I've done this, and it's worked every other time. So I'm gonna assume we just didn't go far enough. So if you get a large enough sample size, they also did it. So this is the famous example, right? They do it large enough. If you get a large enough group of people over and over, you know the sample size, and they found this to be true. They also did it with, they'd ask people about Gandhi, and they'd ask 2 questions. The first control group, they'd say, was Gandhi older or younger than 9 years old when he died, right? Second group, was he older or younger than 80? And then they'd ask to guess how old he was. And the people that heard, of course he was older than 9 years old, right? Everybody knows that Gandhi. It doesn't matter. Over and over again, the same thing held true. They did one with Wheel of Fortune where you'd spin a wheel. They do them all on college campuses, right? Because you can pay a college kid $1 to participate in something like this. It's cheap and effective, and there's lots of them around. They'd have them spin a wheel, and the wheel would land on either 10 or 65. That's all it would land on. And then they would ask a question like, how many African nations in the United Nations, right? And invariably, every single time, this would hold true, that the people that on the Wheel of Fortune hit 10, they'd guess a lower number than the people that hit 65 on Wheel of Fortune. I saw somebody here who works at a camp. Didn't I hear somebody? Okay, so there's a famous experiment, a variation on this. Everybody just keeps doing variations. They had camp counselors, and they asked a group of college kids. They talked about this camp, and they asked college kids, they said, would you, I know it's hard to see the bottom, so I'll read it out. They said, would you volunteer for 2 hours a week for 2 years? Okay, first question, control group. Would you volunteer at this camp 2 hours a week for 2 years? Guess what percentage of college kids said yes? Zero. Zero college kids said they would donate 2 hours a week for 2 years. However, when they then followed up with this question, would you volunteer for a single 2-hour trip? Half. Half of the people who were first asked about volunteering for 2 years said, yes, we'll volunteer for this. When you started with this question, you got about 5%. Does that make sense? What we're going to talk about today is this idea right here, okay? How we present things matters. And Peter was absolutely accurate when he said, Nick will talk about the more practical. This is my role at all of the theology conferences, right? You have wonderful speakers talk about the theology of the gift and stewardship, and then they cart me out to talk about practical emails, right? And psychology experiments and all the really practical stuff. That is my role. That's what we're going to talk about, okay? We're going to touch on a whole bunch of different areas. So how we present things matter. I'm going to start first and talk about how we present the appeal. Many of the folks in here work for dioceses. If you don't work for dioceses, if you're at charities or a camp or even a parish, you're typically running an annual appeal. I want to highlight something I've learned. And as Peter mentioned, I had the benefit of working in almost every diocese at this point, right? We get to see how dioceses are run. We get to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's talk about a local diocese here, Diocese of Phoenix. Okay, one of the first clients that I ever had, actually. We got a couple people in the room, Conde, Lisa. We go way back. What I learned in Phoenix is they were very intentional about how they talk about their appeal. Okay, and I got tripped up every time. They said their appeal was an invitation, not an ask, right? And in the course of the next hour, I'll use the word ask over and over again. If Linda were here, she would correct me every single time. It was, I remember I worked for, in a previous life, I worked on a consulting contract for an all-girls school, and I was young. I was just I was a prosecutor, and then I got into fundraising, and I always say, you guys, right? So I'd had this tick where I'd say, and then you guys are going to do this. And this sweet nun, she corrected me 100 times over the course of like my first week there with this client, right? And it felt the same way when I'd always say, okay, and then here's our ask amount, and they'd say, Nick, it's an invitation amount. But they were very intentional about how they framed their appeal. Their appeal is an invitation, it's not an ask. The focus has always been on the ministries and the beneficiaries, and it is one of the most successful diocesan appeals in the country. It is a voluntary appeal. It is incredible what Conde and Lisa and their team built. It has laid the future for all sorts of future fundraising, right? They have this wonderful appeal. It happens every year. They went and raised $100 million on top of it. That is how it should work, right? They're intentional. How they present that appeal is very thoughtful. It's an invitation. It is always an invitation. It's focused on the ministries and the beneficiaries. I will contrast that with a hypothetical diocese that actually represents about 10 or 15 dioceses in the country, right? And we work with some of them. And in these dioceses, I won't call anybody out. The appeal is considered to be a business process, right? The money just comes in. I don't know. It's an appeal. It's coming in. And the focus is always on the amount that's owed by the parish. Okay, I see heads nodding, so you guys get this, right? Some of you live and work in these dioceses. I'm thinking of one in particular. They haven't hit goal in 10 years. But what do you think happens to the goal every year? It keeps going up, right? And it just takes more and more. It repurposes money from parish offertory. These are the two extremes in diocesan appeals right now. Thankfully, about 2/3 of the country is following the Diocese of Phoenix model. You're intentional. It is a stewardship initiative. You're inviting people to give. The focus is on, we have a need to give. Here's the wonderful uses that we can do with your generosity. There are still dioceses that are in this boat, right? And how we present things matters, because what do you feel the culture is like in this diocese? Among the presbyterate, among the interaction between the pastors and the development office, among the pastors and the diocese, it's terrible. And you can just feel it, right? I walk into these dioceses, I could list off 20 for you right now, that after years and years of this, of looking at stewardship, of your annual appeal, looking at it as a business process and a goal and just a function, really a tax by another name, all that does is it ruins culture, it drives stewardship down. Pastors embrace this transactional mentality of there's only so much money that goes around, and some of it I get to keep, and the diocese is taking some, and it's horrible. And I want to take them all on a field trip to some of these amazing dioceses we have and just see how it can work, right? Life can be so much better if you think about how you're presenting this. Make sense? How we present things matters. It matters a great deal. And what I want to share today, sort of the thesis of this, is that how we present things matters, and technology helps us present things better. Okay, so that's the big headline for this entire talk, right? How we present things matters, and technology can help us present things better, right? More effectively, in a better way. And we're going to share some examples of what I'm talking about. Okay, we're going to cover some ground here. Many of you are going to be familiar with a couple of the early examples because we've been doing this for a long time. So let's talk about how we present things matter. How we present ask amounts, an invitation if you're in Phoenix. Okay. We ran an experiment. PSG runs a ton of experiments, and all of it is for free. If you ever need research, start with us because we probably got it for you. There's an experiment that we ran to find out on an annual appeal if we send people a pledge card and we ask everybody for the same amount versus if we try and customize the amount, right? And ask ranging from maybe starts at 25, goes up to 75, 250. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're segmenting versus one size fits all. What we found was astonishing. The one size fits all, the average gift increase was about 4.5%, which is pretty good. It's about inflation, okay? When you customize the ask amount, you will find on average what we found, which is an increase of about 29%. We actually find a little closer to 22% now. When we ran the first experiment, on average, the gift increased by almost a third, just by personalizing that amount. And keep in mind what I'm not saying. I am not saying ask them for more money. In many cases, you are asking them for less than what you would have asked for on a generic pledge card. Okay? How we present things matters. When the donor receives an invitation to give and it feels appropriate for them, they are more likely to give. And as we find, they're more likely to increase their gift than what they'd given the year before. You don't need to take my word for it. But 2 years ago now, I keep using this example, Wall Street Journal ran a great article that talked about this exact phenomenon, right? A simple way to get people to donate more money to charity, you can look it up. It's all about personalized ask amounts. Ask them for a specific amount that is appropriate for them, and you will see your donations skyrocket, okay? This is low-hanging fruit if you're running a fundraising appeal. Something we've also learned, you cannot just ask people for 10% more than what they gave the year before. That is, and I don't pull that number out of thin air. That is the formula in a whole lot of places, right? What did they give to the appeal last year? Let's ask them for about 10% more. I just want to highlight for you why that doesn't work, okay? Let's look at a group of donors right here. Down the left side is their initial gift. Let me show you what a 10% increase looks like. And I guarantee you, in many of your offices, if you're not aware of it, if you use a direct mail house or somebody to set your ask amounts, what is happening is they are taking their last gift and they're multiplying it times 1.1, right? And then they're rounding it. That is what's happening. This is what you need to understand so that you can do better. Those are your 10% increases, right? So from $20 to $22. That's way too low, okay? 100 to 110. That is way too low of an invitation. 5 to 550 is probably too low. 1,000 to 1,100 is too weird of a number. 5,500 is possibly okay, okay? Because what we've learned, and this is only through trial and error, there's every mistake in the book I have made, okay? I did not grow up wanting to be a fundraiser. I came at this from a different angle, and I have to keep learning these lessons over and over again. And what I thought when I first saw the gift of $20, I thought, it's the widow's mite, right? Somebody's on a fixed income. It's $20. That's a generous gift. That's wonderful. I don't want to insult them. That is almost never the case. $20 is a token gift. It is a toe in the water gift. It is I am alive and I support this, but I don't know enough about you yet, right? So in many cases, $20 to 22, that is, it's not insulting, but it's wildly inappropriate. If you see that 20 for what it really is, which is that first step towards supporting your mission, I would, without a doubt, ask that $20 first-time giver to donate $100 or $250 next time, okay? Heads nodding. Does anybody disagree with this? On the right, this is what I would ask for, and I'll share all these slides as well. I'll send them to Peter, and Peter can share them out. I know people are always interested of roughly, how do you fall on these things? These are the amounts that I would set, right? Just based on if they gave 500 last time, I'd ask them for 750 to 1,000, okay? And what that looks like from a percentage standpoint is in some cases, we're asking for 1,000% more than what they've given in the past. You cannot just ask for 10% more across the board. You have to see people for who they are. I'm talking about donor personas, on and on. I'm not going to get any more into this. I'm just sharing it because it fits The theme of today of how we present things matters. How you present your invitations matters quite a bit. We have free webinars up the wazoo on our website. We go into deep dives on all of this stuff. So if this interests you, you can go check it out there. But how we present things matters. What we ended up doing, this is how PSG got into software in the first place. We're a consulting company, right? We work with dioceses. We run big annual fundraising appeals. We got into software because we knew this to be true. We ran an experiment. We found that when we ask people for something that's appropriate at every level, even if that means we're asking for 8,000 different amounts, right, on a big appeal, it matters quite a bit. And there was no way to do that for us other than exporting things into Excel and going through line by line and setting ask amounts, like a row at a time. And it worked. It worked really darn well, but we couldn't scale it, right? My employees were all going to quit because I kept over-promising to these dioceses, we're going to set these custom ask amounts, but then we had to dig through these spreadsheets. It was a nightmare scenario. So that's actually how we invented our first software platform. It's called Ask Genius. Many of you use it. All it does is it takes giving history and zip code and affluence scores, and it sets ask amounts. Whether you want to be aggressive or conservative, that's what it is, okay? You can use it if you use Virtuous. You can use it if you use Blackbaud. That's how we got into this world of software. And honestly, it's changed everything about PSG. Once we started working in software and realizing that we could fix, when we saw a problem, we could fix it, everything opened up. And you're going to see some of what I'm talking about here. Okay, how we present things matters. How we present our pledge cards. We do a whole lot of research on pledge cards. This was probably 3-4 years ago now. We asked every diocese in the country. Many of you helped us on this research project. We got more than 100 dioceses to send us their pledge cards and how they set ask amounts and everything else. And the best advice I can give you, so talking about pledge cards here, talking about ask amounts, it matters quite a bit how you present your ask string. So not just that you're asking people for the right amount, but whether you put it in the right order. Okay, so there's 2 ways you can list your ask amounts, your ask strings, your gift ladders, your bump tables. They're called 30 different things, okay? You can do it ascending or descending. Who thinks that ascending raises more money? Left or right? Raise your hand. Okay, who thinks descending? Oh, I love it when that works. You're all wrong. Most of you are wrong. There's a few of you who got it right. It's counterintuitive to the wine experiment, isn't it? It's the exact opposite of the wine experiment. That's why you never stop learning. We keep running experiments. Just when you think you know something, you run an experiment and it blows up in your face. We have tested this time and time and time again on diocesan appeals. When you're putting a printed pledge card in front of people, list the ask amounts in ascending order from low to high, okay? If we have time at the end, we'll go into a theory of why that is. But for now, I'm just going to keep moving on because we got lots of good stuff to share, okay? How we present things matters. Your pledge card should be designed for recurring giving and online giving. What I mean is this. This is a pledge card, an example of how we design them now. Many of you, this will look familiar. Big numbers that lead the donor through the journey. Start here at number 1, then go to number 2. But right from the jump, invite them to make a monthly gift. If they don't want to, they won't. Many of them will make a monthly gift and make a recurring gift, okay? Yes, Peter. They are. I used to have this slide ahead because I wanted to trick people into saying descending. I didn't need to. You guys said it anyway. So your pledge card should, and it's in pink because those are merge fields, right? When you set this is the way we do it now. You have a pledge card. You're going to merge in the donor's name and address. You're going to have a scan line on there. And those individual ask amounts should be merged in for every single donor, okay? The takeaway from this one, ask them for a monthly gift. They will give it. And what about credit cards? Asking for credit cards on your pledge card. Should we do it or not? No. This is going to get me in trouble with all of your mail houses that want you to do it. Do not ask for your credit card on there. Why should you not ask for credit card anymore? Security reasons. Boom. What else? Why should you not ask somebody, other than security, why should you not ask them on a pledge card? Handwriting is terrible. Yes, everybody has bad handwriting. You have to, gift processing or you have to pay a company to enter it for you. Yes. Yes. Let's see what we missed. PCI compliance, security, yes. You want people to go give online. Why do we want them to give online? People give more. Well, it's more efficient to process. They also give more. I should have made that to a slide, I realize. It's just taken for granted at this point. When you guys should know this, and you should take it for granted. When people give online, they give more. Okay? When people give online, they give more. So in all of your fundraising that you do, invite people to give online. There's something about it, and we can talk about theory behind it. They just do. And that's not just in the aggregate. I am talking about when you take donors to your appeal who have been giving by check, and you invite them over to give online, they will give more. They just do, okay? When they give online, you also control the experience, and you can make it more likely for them to make a recurring gift. We'll talk about donation pages in a little bit here. It's easier to process the gifts. You're guaranteed to get an email, because when you're giving online, you're going to include your email, which means suddenly your database is up to date, and you have a fresh email, and you can thank them in a personal, heartfelt way at no cost to you at all. And you get to control the whole experience, okay? You will be scared, or when you go to make this switch, right? You've always asked for credit cards, and you know there's always a few hundred people that write in their credit cards. Oh my gosh, what are they going to do? Those poor people that have always been writing in their credit cards, they don't know how to use the internet. Stop it. They know how to use the internet. And you know what? There might be 4 or 5 that don't. And you know what they do? They call you. Or they call their children and ask them because they care deeply about it. Or you know what they love to do? Write it on there anyway. They say, I'm always going to write it. I'm just going to scrawl it over the top of this. I'm going to send it in. Trust me, their gifts will find you. Father Kiter.
Have you found a difference based on age of when you have a web address to go to versus if you are?
Yeah, great question. Yes. So COVID changed it though. So once COVID hit, QR codes are everywhere, right? So like when my parents are the Luddites, right? Like once they started knowing how to use a QR code, it had officially arrived, right, for all of us. So you always do both, right? You do a QR code and then you have an easy URL beneath it. What we have found, and I'm thinking of all this, I have sat in thousands of parish finance meetings over the years, right? From this and from my time at Steyer before that. And they're always grumpy, right? That's where you put the grumpiest people at any parish. Put them on the finance committee. And they love nothing more than to say, no, this is how we've always done it. Oh, that won't work here. Oh, our people are old. There's this perception out there of that, like the people that won't give online, there's a perception that's like 60 and up, right? Like that's roughly what fine. And it's not. It's like 85 and up is the line, right? And even then it's 50-50 probably. Does that make sense? Okay? Oh, that's where you put them. You have to make it through the finance committee to be grumpy enough to be a greeter. Then that's when that's the wicker door. Okay. How we present donation pages, right? How we present things matter. What have we learned about donation pages? Phoenix is great because Phoenix Conde was always so wonderful to let us experiment. One of our first clients, anything we could think of, we're like, let's experiment. Conde is always down, Conde and Lisa. So we did all of this experimenting. And then every other diocese has benefited. Okay, so we learned, and I'm not going to go into this again. We have webinars galore on donation pages, on how you should design them. What we found, how we present things matters. When you put a photo, a smiling photo of a beneficiary, and a couple bullet points on there about where that gift is going to be used, you will raise more money. In Phoenix, there's 11%. We stopped running the experiments here year and year for all of our other clients because we felt like we were costing them money. We don't need to run the experiment anymore to know that a big hero image and some bullet points about where your money goes will raise you more money, okay? We had another experiment. This was my favorite because it was my idea. I thought, well, what if we put out, so in Phoenix, they have these giving societies, right, in clubs. If you can't see there, on the right side's a normal donation page. It says 25, 50, 100. On the left side, it says 25, and then it says Our Lady of Guadalupe Circle, right? So instead of just having a dollar amount, it also had the name of the society on the button. And I thought, I am so smart. Everybody loves being a part of these giving societies. Let's just make the button part of it, and we're just going to see giving go through the roof, right? Of course, what do you think happened? Right? Huge disaster. And so giving tiers on the buttons versus on the right. It doesn't look like it here, but the average gift was $10 less if we put the giving society on the button. The conversion rate was 2% less, which doesn't seem like a lot. When you're a big organization, that is a 4-alarm fire, right? A 2% drop year over year in conversion is a big deal. So we stopped the experiment. We kept it clean and simple. We're always learning. A key thing for everyone to know, okay? So as we talk about donation pages, your donation page, we refer to your donation page, In the old days, it was a donation page. It was, well, if you want to make a gift, we have a spot on our website where you can make a gift online. That is the old way. That is not the way any of you should be operating. It is not the way that most organizations you donate to operate. Your donation experience is no longer a donation page, it's a series of funnels. And I will share with you the most effective strategy that exists, to our knowledge, until we do more experiments and learn more. And this is where you might want the slides because it's helpful to have in front of you. If you work with PSG, or even if you don't, or you attend any of our training sessions, this is what we will set up for you, okay, for your donation pages. What you have on the left side is you have initial page that your donor is going to go to. We're going to invite them onto this donation page, and it's going to be a recurring gift page. Would you like to make a recurring gift to this organization? And it's going to go from low to high, right? There's 4 different versions of it. And if they don't want to make a recurring gift, they're going to click, and it's going to take them to a one-time gift page, okay? So it's not a one-size-fits-all form, it's actually different pages that you can lead them to. Sometimes they want to make a pledge, and they can go to a pledge page. We only have one of those because there's not enough volume to make multiple pledge pages. And then on the right, you have what we'd think of as donation pages, sort of your signature. This is our signature donor page. This is where we're sending everybody that gives, $10,000 and up. They're going to this page right here. We're going to invite them to go to this page because it's going to have language about QCDs and giving through, planned giving, and people like you do stuff like this. That's the signature donation page. And maybe you have a text to give program, or you do need a default giving page, and if somebody just wanders onto your website, you have to have that as well. But this is what a donation experience looks like. And I'm not even going to say at a modern high-end nonprofit. This is just table stakes now, right? This is basic. This should be any high school or above donation page should be a series of funnels that look like this, because you will raise more money and because it's not difficult to set this up at all. All you need is a name for each page, okay? So replace charity with your own name. You call one of them, this is St. Vincent de Paul /appeal. The other one is St. Vincent de Paul /donate. The donor has no idea that they're being sent and invited to a page that's different than the one that their neighbor's going to. Okay, make sense? Questions on donation page pages versus funnels? Okay. I do want to stop and give a warning at this point. There's a trend, and only because it came up twice last week, so maybe it's not a trend, but it happened to me twice last week, so I feel the need to share this with you. You should be wary, if you are at a diocese or at a large organization, of any tech firm that is trying to control that donation page experience and take it out of your hands. And what I mean here is this. I was meeting with one of the largest dioceses in the country last week, and they said, oh, we're so excited. We've got a vendor. They have this great vision, and it's going to be an app, and they're going to have all the parishes use it. And that way, if a donor wants to give to the appeal, it'll be right there in the app. And then below that's going to be their offertory, their donate to that. And if they want to give to St. Vincent de Paul, it's going to be all in the app, right? That is the vision. Does anybody see how terrible that will be, right? I see heads nodding in here. Some of you might like that idea, right? I understand how you get there. It's a CTO's approach, right? It's a business manager or CFO that sees all of this as just accounts receivable, right? This is a more efficient way for them to donate. It would decimate your diocesan fundraising. You cannot give up control of what that donation page experience looks like, okay? Don't let a software company sell you on this. It sounds like it's going to be something that's beneficial. It's not, right? You're thinking the wrong way. You need to control your donation experience. It's the same mindset that a lot of dioceses go through. They think, oh man, every donor is getting nickeled and dined, and we got to control this, right? I got to stop all these different organizations from asking our people. The same families get asked over and over again. So the diocese tries to play a heavy hand in it and say, we're going to consolidate everything, and we're going to decide what the donors get to give to. It is a disaster. There are dioceses that have lost tens of millions of dollars going down this road and realizing, shockingly, that donors like to make that decision on their own, right? There's dioceses that have entirely reorganized themselves around this idea that all the school fundraising and Catholic charities and everything, we're going to put it all together, and then we'll have one major gift officer that meets with the donor, and they offer up the different options. It is an absolute disaster. You have to let the donors decide. I know it's frustrating that there's lots of people fundraising. You have to let it be. It is the only way to go, okay? How we present things matters. And technology helps us present things better. Let's talk about how we present our gratitude. This is some of the fun stuff now. I want to share some examples here. And the first one, rather than just share an example, this is interactive. You can see it yourself. I want you all to scan this. If you can't scan it, Father Kiter is a perfect example. QR code up above, nice URL down below. Take you 10 seconds. Does anybody need the Wi-Fi code? Say, you can go to easy.automategenius.com. We built this for a conference last year. It went nuts. Everybody loved it, so we just keep using it. Scan that. When you do, you'll see this page. Got a picture on there. Does anybody know who that is? That's Bill Maloney. Good friend Bill. Bill and I go way back. He worked for the Archdiocese of Kansas City, Kansas. He's now doing a little bit of consulting. Put in your first name, your last name, and your email, and it will trigger to you one of the coolest things in fundraising. Put in your first name, last name, and email. What you will get when you do that, easy.automategenius.com, you will get this. It'll be from me. You can actually, it might be from Andrew Mankey. Is it for me? Thank you. It's for me. You can reply. My phone will vibrate over here on the table. This is where the world is going, and I want to spend a little time to show you what we're talking about. How we present things matters. How we present our gratitude matters. You will get an email that looks like this with a bunch of fake names of donors. And next to each fake name is some sort of a message prompt. And in the email, have people received it? Is it working? You can click on any of those little prompts. David, what happens when you click on one of those prompts? From who's the email from? Well, no, it's from you. On whatever email you're using, if you're on an iPhone, if you're on an Android, if you're using Chrome or Gmail, whatever it is, it will generate a heartfelt email from you to that donor based on that message prompt. Does everybody see how life-changing this is? Imagine you are a major gift officer, or a development director at a diocese, or a Catholic Charities development director, or a CEO of World Villages for Children. And every morning you get an email like this that says, let me back up. Leslie made a gift over $1,000. Here's a special message. You don't have to write it. We've written it for you. We're serving it up on a platter, and you can edit it if you need, but it's just ready for you. It's 95% there for you to show your gratitude. Maybe you have a first-time donor and you want to reach out and say, hey, this is incredible. Mary, I think this is the first time you've given to our organization. I just wanted to introduce myself. That's what the message should say. It is delivered to you on a platter every single morning. You get to control how many emails a day you want to send, who they come from, what they say, and you control whether you send them. We have nonprofits across the country that get this daily email, and maybe they get 10 a day and they send 4, right? The rest of them, I don't know who that person is, or I just saw this guy yesterday, I'm not going to send it. But these 3 people, absolutely, I'm going to send it. It's a new donor. I'm going to click. It's going to take 5 seconds of my time, and I'm going to be in their inbox with a personal note of gratitude from a real person. This was not possible to do 2 years ago, okay? This is where the world is going now, making you more effective. Technology is helping us present things better. The way that you present your gratitude. When I was sitting back there, when Peter called me out earlier, I was putting focus. Raise your hand if you're from Focus. It's half the room, right? Focus. You have how many missionaries across the country? Did you say 48? All right, 1,048. 1,048 missionaries across the country. Imagine if you're working at Focus. 1,048, all of whom are getting gifts from friends and family and colleagues who are supporting their mission. It is philanthropic malpractice if you are not doing something like this. You should have every one of those missionaries getting an email in the morning and say, hey, these 3 people made a gift in your name. Click here to send a thank you to them, a thank you that you at the mothership have crafted, because most young people are terrible at writing emails, right? It's going to be no punctuation. Instead of like the Y-O-U-R, it's going to say like you are, like all of the things that these young kids do. You can write it for them and serve it up on a platter, so all they have to do is edit it, okay? I think of Focus all the time when we have clients doing this. If you're at college or university, this is what you're doing. And you get to control what all that stuff looks like, okay? Questions on what Dallas is doing. So I bring up Dallas as an example. Dallas, Phoenix, Dave DiNapoli in Portland, Maine was one of the first people to really get into automation. This is where the world is going. How we present things matters. Using technology can help us present things in a way that improves our fundraising, improves the donor gratitude. Let's talk about Archdiocese of Galveston, Houston for a minute. They have automated their gift acknowledgments. I'm going to go quick because there's tons of stuff to talk about still. So at the Archdiocese of Galveston, Houston, they have gifts that come in, a whole lot. I think it's 80-some thousand. We'll find out in a second. 86,000 gifts every year by December 31st. And the way they tackle this, right? Stop me if any of this is familiar. About once a month, somebody pulls a list, all the people that made a gift in the last month. And there's a ton of cleanup that has to do. You have to take out the soft credits, right? Husbands and wives are going to be listed the wrong way. You got to remove all the anonymous stuff. There's parish gifts because Father Kiter just sent in a check and said, this is for a bunch of my parishioners, which is really annoying because you actually want the donations to come in, not just a check from the parish. You got to remove all the matching gifts, all the stuff. You got to suppress corporate gifts. There's so much cleanup that has to happen. And you do it every single month, and it's a big nightmare. You do not have to live like that anymore. You can automate all of this, right? A list now in Houston, they pull it every Friday, and it automatically cleans up everything in it with a click of a button. And they review it, and they send it to the printer. And what's coming next, where they're at now, they do all of that. So they've automated away all the pain of gift processing, acknowledgments. Now they've automated the point that as soon as a gift comes in, there's an email that goes out within 24 hours from a real person. And this is what Conde is doing. This is what David's doing. They led the way, and now most dioceses have followed. From a real person. When I make a gift to an organization, if I get an email back that's like a robot receipt, I'm like, okay, great, I get it. Like that's my tax receipt, that's cool. But if then I get a couple hours later, a note from a real person, right? Jeremy sends me a note and says, hey, thanks for your gift. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm development director here. We really appreciate your gift. We're going to use it wisely. If you have any questions, call me. That is now a remarkable giving experience for me. And I mean that word. It is remarkable. I will remark on that experience to other donors. I guarantee you I will, right? The bar is so low for you to show gratitude in this day and age. The bar is so low. You can automate this and make it seem like you are the greatest development director in the world. Automate it, send them a personal, heartfelt note, send it in addition to that robot receipt that they get. You will be amazed at what it does for your fundraising, okay? How we present things matters. And technology can help us present things better. I want to talk about Archdiocese of Oklahoma City, where Peter was at. This is a unique situation for Peter, right? So Peter, it's not unique. It's unique that we solved it for him. Peter had an issue with Razor's Edge in that you had, I think, 75 different naming conventions. Is that right, Peter? Give or take? Dear Peter and Colleen, Dear Colleen and Peter, right? Dear Mr. and Mrs. DeCarritree, Dear Peter, Dear Deacon, Dear Monsignor, Dear Reverend James, Dear Father James Kiter, Dear Father Jim. All of that is appropriate, right? Like it was right because it matters how we present things. You want to present things the right way. Sometimes you need to be formal. Sometimes you need to be informal for an email. But it was a nightmare to keep up in the database. So every time a new donor would come in or priest assignments would get moved around, there would be an incredible amount of work being done in the database. So what we built for Peter is a thing that we still call to this day inside of PSG. We call it the magic button, right? It's Peter's magic button that when a donor comes in, there's a little button. This is in Razor's Edge right now. And they click this little button and it does all of it, right? From where that donor came in, you enter it one time and it creates all the different salutation fields, okay? Now you can see why they bring me in to talk about the practical stuff. You have Matthew talking about stewardship. You have Father Kiter giving a wonderful talk earlier. And you have me talking about salutations and automating the creation of salutations. This is what gets me up in the morning. I get so excited when we can solve things like this. So what I'm telling you is how we present things matters. Technology can help you present things better. And where we're going with all of this is that clean data is a requirement for every single thing you do, okay? So we have some database administrators in the room. If you're excited about that heartfelt email example, right, that you scanned, that will draft the emails for you, you might walk out of here thinking, this is incredible. I can't wait to use this. And the truth is, you're probably not ready yet. Because unless you have clean, good data, all of this is meaningless, okay? So your takeaway from this is not automation is here, right? We're going to talk about AI in a little bit, like all the fun stuff. Your first takeaway is, okay, is our data clean? Like, do we have what we need? Do we have first name in the first name field? Do we have last name in the last name field? Do we have email organized in the right field and consistently for everybody? Because if you do that first, this is the most exciting time to be a development director that I can imagine. It is just the pace of technology and advancement and what's happening right now. It is an exciting time to be a development director. You can't play with any of the toys until you get your data clean first, okay? One thing we do a lot that people are interested in, this thing we call it the magic lookup folder. Basically, our team built this thing. So imagine you're a diocese and you have all of your parishes on PDS or ParishSoft or Ministry Platform or who knows what, right? Spreadsheets or in napkins if you're in Biloxi. Uh, anybody from Biloxi? Okay. So you're trying to keep your diocesan database clean. All of your parishes are on something else. It's impossible, right? You send the spreadsheet to the parishes. You ask them to clean it up. Their data's bad. It's a nightmare. We've skipped all that, and our team has built out this thing we call the magic folder that just basically lets you drop a file of any kind into a folder on SharePoint, and it will then go and search inside of Razor's Edge to find the matches, and it will append the number, the constituent ID to it, so you can just drop them in with a global import. Okay. Super boring. Maybe that doesn't make any sense. I guarantee you there's about 10 or 15 people in here who are like, oh my goodness, this changes everything. Okay. This exists now. You need to demand more out of your technology. Okay. So that's Magic Folder. I want to take a minute. I want to brag on my team. PSG, I didn't introduce myself. We've worked with most of you before. We do fundraising consulting. We run Razor's Edge databases. We do a whole bunch of stuff. What we've been doing lately is fundraising automation, everything I just shared. And it's this team here, Stacy and Rob and Andy and Lauren and the whole crew, Austin Brown. We've experimented in every diocese kind of figuring these things out and how to work. And now this little team based out of Omaha is doing this stuff for giant organizations, right? For the Field Museum, right? For Archdiocese of Los Angeles, for colleges and universities all across the country, for some international. Like, we have quietly become this little corner of the Catholic diocesan fundraising world, this leader in automation. And I am telling you, there has never been a better time to be in philanthropy, to be in development, because what you can do now is incredible, okay? But none of it works unless you have clean data. So I'm very proud of our team. I just wanted to brag on them for a minute. This is Stacy and Austin that build all of our automations. This was at the Razor's Edge conference last year. Standing room only, right? This is year after year. Like you go to these conferences, everybody packs in the room to hear these two wonderful Catholic ladies speak on what they're doing for automation. The Catholic fundraising world right now is the leader in fundraising automation and technology, and you guys are hearing about it from your peers here today. How we present things matters, and technology can help us present things better. Let's talk about how we present our stories, okay? So let's talk about social media for a little bit. And let's talk about newspapers. So imagine a world where I gave this talk at the Catholic Media Association conference a year ago. So imagine a world where you have a story, right? And it's just incredible. It's the best story you've ever written. It's so good that when people read this story, they can't help but grab that newspaper and go running, right? And they're telling everybody about it. And they're sharing it with everybody that they know, right? The nuns are reading it together. The priests are all reading it together. It's the best story, and they all want to share it, right? Imagine what that would feel like if you're the Catholic newspaper editor, if you're the writer, like, you've really hit a home run here, right? It's funny to think about that happening, right? Like running out with a newspaper and sharing it with your friends and calling your dad and saying, you got to check this out. I need you all to understand that that is happening every single day, okay? But it's happening on social media. That is what social media is, okay? It is happening every single day. Social media allows that when I read something and I think it's great, I can share it or I can hit the like button. And what happens at that point? When you share something, or let's not even say share, you read something on Facebook, you hit the like button. What does Facebook do? It shows you more of it, and what else does it do? Your internal one, what does it do to your friends and family? It does. It shares. Like, what an evangelization tool. The Catholic Church should have invented social media. This was built for us, right? In the modern age. When you have something that you think it speaks to you that's meaningful, all you have to do is click a button, and instantly it is going to be shown to people in your orbit, right? What an evangelization tool. And man, I could share stats. You should have just an 8-hour day of nothing but stats that will scare you about social media use, right? 54% of Gen Z use social media for 4+ hours a day, okay? 50% of Gen Z use social media for news consumption, right? These stats are 2 years old. It's probably much higher now, right? Use of social media to make buying decisions. Boomers, 48%. Gen X, 77%. Millennials, 90%, right? This is just the world now, okay? Social media is the first stop for most people when they're researching something. If they're moving to a new area and they want to join, they're going to send their kids to Catholic school, where are they going to look? They're going to look on social media, right? That's just how the world works. It's connecting us all because they want to see friends, networks, connections who have recommended a place, right? If I'm looking up a restaurant. I like to know, have my friends eaten there? Have they given it 5 stars, right? What do they think about it? That is how the world is connected now. You see this in the diocesan realm. We did a big research project, I think this was last year, for DISC. Again, thank you all for participating. 120 dioceses participated in our most recent project. 48% of dioceses still print a newspaper. Okay. Of those, only 13% are printing a weekly, right? It's just this, the newspaper world, not just Catholic newspaper, the newspaper world is dying, okay? I say I was a journalist. I was editor of the Craytonian, the newspaper for Creighton University. I was gonna go into journalism. Thankfully, I did not, because it's dead. There is no future in print journalism. It just does not exist. The economics of it do not work anymore, right? The Catholic Church is slowly coming around to that. Half the people that are still printing are doing maybe bi-weekly, okay? Many of them are doing fewer than 20 issues a year. We asked, when did you stop printing? About 40% was more than 5 years ago. More than 50% within the last 5 years across the bottom, right? So this is the reality in the Catholic Church, which can be depressing if you are a newspaper editor. There's no getting around that. But it can be very exciting if you're in fundraising or communications. If your goal is not to keep printing a newspaper, these are all great stats, right? If your goal is to keep printing a newspaper, this is horrifying. If your goal is to actually reach people in a cost-effective way, right, in a way that helps you evangelize, this is all wonderful, okay? 50% of Gen Z are using it for news consumption. But how do you reach people on social media? Here's what we found. Catholic dioceses, on average, can reach about 8% of Catholics. That's kind of the ceiling. That's not an average. It's really the ceiling. We've never seen anybody do higher than that. Okay, and Lansing is the best. Lansing is the best diocesan communications office in the country, in my opinion. They reach about 8%. That is the high water mark of what they would call the bishop junkies, right? I think of my parents here, like the people who are really super Catholic, right? And they want to know what the bishop is doing. They're really dialed in. They're going to all the events. That maxes out around 8%. Okay. Parish followers, on the other hand, on average is reaching about 65%. 65% of registered Catholics, right, are following their parish. And this number has steadily increased ever since COVID, because when COVID came and we had that period where we weren't attending Mass, everybody went and started following their parish if they hadn't already. How we present things matters, and what we need to do is present things through the parish, right? So imagine in a diocese, we're here in Phoenix. How many parishes are in Phoenix? 119 parishes in Phoenix. If you are working at a diocese, or if you're working at St. Vincent de Paul or Catholic Charity or someone in Phoenix, the way to reach the audience is not through the diocese. The way to reach the audience is through the parish, okay? And parishes know this. We did a study years ago that found that parishes who are active on social media have higher giving, is 44% higher average offertory giving. This is what started us down this whole path, talking about social media. What we did is we worked with dioceses, and the diocese is saying, hey, how can we reach more people, right? The newspaper's closing down. We don't know what to do anymore. How do we reach people? And you've got the parish over here saying, I need to be all over social media. Everybody's following us. They want great content. What do we do? So you married the two together, right? This idea was that what if the diocese took all the content that it was creating and served it up for parishes? Instead of just working on its own to build that brand, instead of the sisters building their own brand, what if they could just have that content but hand it off to the parishes where everybody is following? Everybody follows their parish. They really don't do anything more than that. That's the limit for most people's participation on social media. So you give it to the parish, and then you let the parishes publish it to their social media pages. And what we found is that any piece of content will reach, we say 50 to 100. In reality, it's more like 90 to 100 times more people. You will reach 90 to 100 times more people by taking the same piece of content that you would have put up through the diocese and just handing it to the parish and let them post it. Why is that? Because everybody follows their parish. Nobody follows anything. Nobody follows the diocese, right? Everybody interacts with their parish. They're clicking on stuff from the parish all the time. If you can get into that stream, you're going to be swimming where the people are, where the fishes are. So it looks like that. Parishes are just given a big smorgasbord of content. They click on stuff they like. Out it goes. They choose where to publish it, and it goes out, okay? This is the stat I'm most excited about. When we've rolled this out, so this is now in, I think, 40 dioceses. If your diocese uses this tool, raise your hand, right? They just started. Colorado Springs, Phoenix, Wichita, Boston, Lansing, Harrisburg, Oklahoma City, on and on. This will be in every diocese probably in the next year and a half. What we found is that when you train parishes, say, hey, the diocese is going to give you a bunch of great content, and then you can use it, 80% of parishes post the content. They keep using it, right? And if you've worked in the Catholic Church long enough, you know that that is a near impossible stat. 80%. The lowest participating diocese we had was that 76% of parishes continue using this. They actually like it. Highest participation was at 92%. And if you can do better than 92%, then I will give it to you for free forever, right? It's impossible. It is impossible for you at a diocese to offer this and have more than 92% of your parishes use it. There is always going to be some grumpy finance committee that says, I don't think so. In Archdiocese of Omaha, I always tell the story. I was helping a parish called St. Leo's, and the diocese said, St. Leo's, you're kind of a mid-sized school. You need a development program. We have a donor who's going to give you $100,000 a year for 5 years to fund a development officer role for your school, right? To build up that capacity. And what do you think St. Leo's said? Correct. I will never forget that feeling of like watching them make that decision and say, nah, I don't trust it. Nah, what are we gonna do after 5 years, right? Like, we'll just keep doing what we've been doing, which is running a budget deficit year after year after year, right? So when you have something that 92% of parishes are on board with, you know you've got something special, okay? I wanna highlight one diocese. I said Lansing is the best. Gary might be close. Anybody here from the Diocese of Gary? Anybody spent time there? What's been in the news about Diocese of Gary? They raised a fortune. What happened there? An enormous gift. I wish I remembered off the top of my head how much we're talking. I mean, it was like 100 million plus. $150 million gift to the Diocese of Gary. Overnight, going from a sleepy sort of Rust Belt diocese to, closing parishes and clustering all of that to opening new schools. And how do we build these centers of excellence? It's an unbelievable case study. But that's not what has me excited about Diocese of Gary. What has me excited about Diocese of Gary is that they understand that how we present things matter and that we can use technology to present things easier. So the Diocese of Gary knows what all the other dioceses know, which is that people follow the parish. So the diocese takes content, they create it for their parishes, okay? They serve it up on a platter. We built that little tool that lets them do that. But they took it a step farther. They said, what would be cool? What if we worked with Canva? Who uses Canva? Everybody, look around the room. Nuts. 5 years ago, nobody would have known what Canva is. Now it's just the default. Everybody uses Canva. Diocese of Gary said, what if we talk to Canva and we get a federated professional license so that we at the diocese are going to create content for our parishes and our schools now, but we're going to do it in a way that when we give it to them, maybe let's say it's a poster, right? Poster for your annual appeal. When we give that content to the parish, we're going to make it interactive and clickable so they can swap out photos and change the text and everything on their own. That is what they're doing in the Diocese of Gary. I see heads nodding who realize what a big deal that is. If your head's not nodding, trust me, that is a really big deal for a parish, okay? Instead of this world where the diocese doesn't do much for you or they send you stuff but it doesn't really fit, we are now living in a world where the diocese can serve stuff up on a platter for you and you can tweak it as that final step at the parish. You can customize it. You can change a headline. You can drop in a photo of your own parishioners, right? If it's a poster or something like that. If it's a bulletin, so it's a March for Life rally. If you're a Catholic school, think how much the diocese can do for you, the school's office, how much marketing it can do for you. It can do 95% of your marketing and serve it up on a platter, and all you need to do is change a headline, change a couple dates on events, change dates on when your admissions deadline is. This is where the world is going. Dioceses are centralizing operations and serving it up for parishes and schools. The Diocese of Gary is leading the way on this, okay? Don't sleep on Gary. That was a long windup to get to what Peter asked me to talk about. But I put it at the end because I only have a slide on it. So to know Peter is to love him, he said, Nick, here's what I want you to talk about. Social media as donor acquisition. And this is over text after last conference. I said, Peter, that's cool. It's a terrible idea. It's not a good presentation. He says, yeah, that's great. So I'll put you down. Social media is donor acquisition. I said, Peter, it's a terrible donor acquisition tool. It doesn't really work that way. Yeah, it'll be awesome. You can talk in the afternoon. It'll be wonderful. And that's how we ended up. And I was laughing when I saw the headline on there. This is what we know, but I want to be true to my word, so I will talk about it. Social media as a donor acquisition tool. In order to explain how it works, this is how fundraising works, okay? Anybody who raises their phone to take a picture of this, I'm going to judge you right now. This is how fundraising works. On your left, you have a database of supporters who care about your mission, okay? And then you have well-structured invitations to give, which is, for many of you, your annual appeal, okay? And then you have personalized asks, like your capital campaign, your special stuff. It's not any more complicated than this. You have people who care about what you do. You have regular invitations for them to give, and then you give some people a little extra love and attention. If you're a college or university, this database, it's alumni, it's faculty and staff, civic leaders, okay? If you're a K-12 school, it's alumni, it's parents of alumni, it's grandparents. If you're in healthcare, it's grateful patients, the people that you've saved their lives, that have been there, that have had a good experience at your hospital. Okay? If you're a diocese, it's Catholics within a geographic area. This is who is in your database, okay? American Cancer Society might be people who have survived cancer and their loved ones. Americans for Tax Relief would be Americans who want lower taxes, right? This is how fundraising works. You have a group of people who care about you, and then you have well-structured invitations to give. The thought was, how can social media play a role to get people into that first bucket, right? How do you use social media to acquire people to become somebody who cares about your mission? And the way that it works is like this, right? So think of social media as an on-ramp, right? That's what it is. Social media, you used to print newspapers and publish them out. That's not how it works anymore. Social media is nothing more than an on-ramp to get to your story, right? To get to your content. And it's a convenient on-ramp, to be sure, right? Because it's in people's hands all the time. People can use social media wherever they are. They're sitting for the doctor's office. They're at lunch. They're right now listening to somebody drone on and on about technology and fundraising, and you can be on social media. It's an incredible tool. It reaches people where they are. It is pretty terrible at this. Does that make sense? This graph, I didn't know if it would translate or not as I was whipping it up. Social media is terrible about bringing people in to your world of people that care about your organizations. What it is good at is here, right? Moving it over to the side. It's not going to find people that care about your mission and bring you in. It might a little bit, but it's not cost effective. What it is cost effective at is helping is reaching those people who already care about what you're doing and reinforcing what you're doing from a fundraising standpoint. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm botching it a little bit. I want to make sure I'm clear on this. It's terrible to acquire donors. So Peter's topic, the answer is it's terrible. Donor acquisition is a terrible tool. Social media is a terrible tool for donor acquisition. Any money that you are going to spend on social media to acquire donors, you should take that money and spend it in cleaning your database, okay? Especially at the diocesan level. The best thing you can do at the diocesan level for donor acquisition is clean your database and figure out how to sync with your parishes. That is the single best thing that you can do to acquire donors. Social media is excellent. Once you have donors in there, it reinforces the fundraising you're doing. It helps you tell donor stories for free. It helps you celebrate successes. When your parishes hit goal, you give them a little badge they can put on social media. You have parish champions. You find somebody in every parish that supports the appeal, and you highlight them and make a little video, and then you target it towards other people in the parish. It's incredible at that phase. It's terrible at acquiring donors, okay? I can pause there for questions. I can also talk about artificial intelligence. Question. Start in the back, and then we'll go sister.
So a lot of these stories and things work really well for what we understand is social media today, for Facebook, maybe even God forbid, right? But as social media in Gen Z moves more to the future, the short form video content, it just doesn't seem as simple to communicate or facilitate that messaging across short form video content. You know what I mean? So I'm like trying to figure out how that migration happens.
Yeah.
Over time, because what we're using with regard to bring social media on Twitter and all these other things, it's moving away from that to a more video based interaction.
It is. I'll answer it two ways. The first is I have good news. Does anybody know what the average age of your donors are? In America, what's the average donor age? Higher. Low, 68. So in 2023, the average donor is 68 years old. 10 years ago, what do you think it was? 68. 20 years ago, what do you think the average donor was? Correct, 68. Fundraising is an old person's game. Philanthropy is an old person's game. And I'd say that tongue in cheek, 68 is not old. The good news for you is the world moves at the young person's level, right? So the move to social media and TikTok and Reels and all that, it is happening. That is not your donor base. So you have 20 years to figure it out, okay? So that's the simple, trite answer is, I'm not worried about that in the slightest. I know that the word communication changes, right? It just does. In the old days, I would get my news from a Catholic newspaper that would arrive every Friday. I'd read it cover to cover. That's not how the world works anymore. Now it's on social media. We will all catch up. We will all use the tools there to reach people. I'm not losing a wink of sleep on it. I feel the same about crypto, right? Somebody in here is dying to ask me about crypto donations. If you spent more than 2 minutes worrying about crypto donations, you've wasted 2 minutes of your life, right? If anyone in here gets one gift from crypto, you will be in an elite group of probably 10 people on earth who have received a gift from crypto. If you receive 2 gifts of crypto coins, you will probably be the only person who's ever received that. Okay? Don't worry about things that are out of your control. It'll come around. Yes, Peter. Nope, not to the second one, but yes, I will talk about AI. I will not be done in 5 minutes. I'm going to keep going.
You kept mentioning about phrases that
Yes.
University just started with Salesforce development. Does your platform work with that?
So what I'm trying to do is just share themes. Automation works on Salesforce, on Razor's Edge, on if you're in Slate. Like it's just going to be different on how it's set up. If you have to go to an outside vendor or if it's built in. Automation as a principle, no matter what you're on, you should be able to do some of this automation. What we end up helping with a bunch is Razor's Edge because dioceses are all on Razor's Edge. But yes, with Salesforce, you can do these same things, right? Sister had a question.
I guess we were talking about Facebook, Instagram, and X.
Yep.
And the civic group something regarding TikTok. I don't know what's going to happen with TikTok.
So we don't do a lot on TikTok because same question before, and I was probably too flippant with the answer, but like fundraising is not something that happens a lot around 20-somethings, at least not in the Catholic diocesan world where we live, right? So we're not under any pressure. We don't feel pressure to jump into TikTok. I know there's many that do. I think actually the Newman Center here in Phoenix has a very big father at the Catholic Jacks does a great job. Yeah, Catholic Jacks does an awesome job on TikTok. Hey, there we go. Shout out. So yeah, so we don't spend a ton of time with it. It's really just, for all of us, it's about where do we put our effort with where's the ROI, right? For many of you, you're not going to get any return on investment on TikTok unless you're a Catholic Newman Center.
And second, in regards to training, how to use these things for some of us who are a little illiterate in this, how to create content on these platforms. Are there any resources on how to?
Great question. I don't have, so the question is, how do you train on this? How do you use social media? Catholic Jacks, do you want to, is there, what? College interns. Sister, find the youngest person that works in your office and tell them you are now in charge of our social media strategy. All right. I want to highlight one thing. I know that we're running along here. AI, I talked about it a bunch last year. You should put it on your agenda every time because so much has changed even since last year when we talked about AI. I just want to give an example of how fast AI is moving. We'll visualize this. I did this on the flight down. So this is me in front of the pyramids. This is me in front of the Eiffel Tower. This was me skydiving yesterday. This is parlor tricks now. I mean, I did this literally sitting on the airplane waiting for it to take off. I uploaded a selfie and then you tell it what you want it to do. I mean, AI is, it's bonkers. I won't get into that. That's too much. I was going to revisit our old AI. It's bonkers what you can do now with AI. Graphics are easy. This is what I want to get to. So I just want to leave this here. Jamie, do you want to share your experience from last year? We talked about AI, and what did you learn?
So I was the first career that I ever understand stuff really has learned. So included like figuring out a two-part lecture. So I got back and part of our outreach is I send out emails to our whole diocese, just stories and sharing. And I would get these great responses back, and if I have tired of saying the same thing or I couldn't figure out what to say. So I just decided to try this new thing and learn the next lecture. And hey, I put in the email and I said, please, you said you just my language. So
Yes.
heartfelt, kind responses. And it thought the response, and I still have it in a little bit, but it is, there's some days, some super ideas, my brain's not functioning, I want to raise something personal and fresh, or at least get the start, and so, now I'm like,
So that was chat. So last year we talked a lot about AI and we talked about ChatGPT. And there's many people in your same shoes who started using it for the first time. The free version, just ask it to help you write a letter and it's incredibly helpful. This is my, as I walk off the stage here, start using Perplexity. Has anybody used it yet? We've got a couple. This is your new best friend. You guys you'll be talking about this next year. Start using Perplexity. It's free, it's incredible. It cites sources. We use it all the time. I'm not even going to tell you more than that, other than just you can Google it, Perplexity, start using it. Use it here when the next speaker, if they're not holding your attention, you start using Perplexity. I'm kidding. Conde's the best. He'll do a great job for you. Okay. What was the theme of this whole talk? I can't leave unless I know that I've made a difference here. What? But before that, what's the one before that? Thank you. How you present things matters, right? Technology is cool in its own right. It's only a tool. It is a tool to help you present things better, okay? How you present things matters. Technology can make it easier and faster. You can automate it. You can use AI to create images. You can do all sorts of cool stuff. Okay, thank you, Peter, for having me. Conde.